Greetings and good day to everyone. Thanks for attending another exciting session of our GL's series of webinars. Today we're going to be talking about ISDN network and T1E1 physical layer monitoring. My name is Matt Yost. I'll be one of the presenters, and I'll be joined by Saketha, who will be helping me as well later on. So I'm going to just go ahead and get started here. For the first slide, basically we have a system diagram, and I'll just briefly go over this, and we'll be getting into some more details about each of the elements here. But at the top of our screen, we're going to be introducing what we call our NetSurveyorWeb. This is generally, at GL, this is our generic name for this product that does physical layer monitoring as well as protocol-specific monitoring of the networks of interest. So it's a little bit generic in nature, meaning that we can monitor ISDN, SS7, CAS calls, in traditional TDM networks. In wireless, we have some of the most common ones: GSM, 4G, 3G network protocols here that we can monitor as well. There's some generality with all of these, so I may mention a few other protocols at some point. And some of the screenshots may be reflective of other protocols at times, but we'll be mainly dealing with ISDN and the physical layer monitoring on traditional TDM networks, T1, E1, and so forth. So just to give you just a little background here on how we do things with NetSurveyorWeb, there are a couple components to it. One of them obviously is the capture probe, and it's what we refer to as the capture probe. So that requires some capture hardware and software to be located interfacing basically at your network. So on the ISDN PRI lines, on the VoIP system, we will have some hardware installed that will be interfacing in a non-intrusive, fail-safe manner on those PRI lines, on those T1 or E1 lines. Those probes, those capture probes, capture the data, filter the data based on your requirements, and send that data back via TCP/IP. I say back, but it can be co-located in the same geographical area to a storage system, a database system. This can be co-located, as I mentioned. It can also be geographically separated. And trends in your network, if we're monitoring at critical locations, and do some traffic optimization for you based on those trends. As you can see here in this screenshot, we're able to actually drill down into a particular call and look at a ladder diagram for a single call that happened in the network, and we can see the plain English decode. So it's good for remote protocol analysis and technician level troubleshooting, but it's also very good, the NetSurveyorWeb is very good for just getting an overall general understanding of the traffic in your network, how many calls are happening here, how many calls are happening at this node, inbound versus outbound calls, looking for events of interest, those types of things, which I'll get into a little bit more. Of course, along the way here, we're basically collecting all types of statistics and call data records. So we organize and display this in a per call basis, and you'll see that a little bit more as we go forward. But we show it as in organized basically in a call detailed record basis. So each call has been devoted a line in our display, and you can take a look at it. Now, there are reports that just give you general overviews on number of calls that have happened and so forth. So we'll see that as well. Some people have used it for revenue and billing verification. So we're keeping track of everything, and we have all of the information about these calls. We can display information about revenue, billing, amount of time spent on the phone, the call durations, those types of things. And one main feature to the product is it can be sitting there collecting all this data 24/7, and we can be set up and we can configure it to do sort of an alarm monitor. So if things happen in the network in the middle of the night, it can log that event, and that event can be really anything. It can be anything from a physical layer alarm on a very, a specific T1, or it can be a specific phone number popped up in a CDR. It can be a busy call going into a certain location. Maybe that's of interest to you. So these events are user-defined. They're very flexible in the nature of that, and we can log those events in a basic log table, as well as we can alert you proactively through email and so forth. And within the IP domain, mainly with this, we have MOS scoring. So NetSurveyorWeb, of course, I mentioned those things for SIP and RTP in the IP domain. So we have access to the RTP, which is the voice traffic there, and we can show you the quality of that through the network. So just some of the general notes here, and I've mentioned a couple of these, but it's a scalable and flexible architecture. Many probes can be deployed, sending back data to a centralized database where all of that data is centralized, and then you have, as a client, you have access to it. Real-time information in the sense that, and we'll see a little bit more about the query methods here, but generally, it's an SQL query-based system. So we've got some default SQL queries that are, traditional with ISDN networks and layer 1, monitoring that 90% of people will find useful. But we also, have the ability to create a custom one for you in your network. And generally, when we deploy these systems, it's an off-the-shelf box and system, but there is an initial upfront talking to the end user, talking to the customer to find out, what is specific about your network that you're interested in. So we will spend time with you to make sure that your graphs, your loggings, all of these things are reflective of what you want. Okay, so there is some upfront time there that we will give you, and we'll support you throughout. Results, of course, are in tabular and graphical formats, and we've got a lot of filtering-based, flexibility with our system. So you can essentially be monitoring, 10,000 calls or happened yesterday, and if you want to filter in on just the calls that went to this particular phone number, you can do that, or just the calls that had a particular CRV value, you can do that. I'll show you. Three-tiered architecture with NetSurveyorWeb, and I'll take just a second to describe that, and I think I have to some extent so far. We got the probes sitting at the network interface. They're monitoring, they're non-intrusively tapping the network through a variety of means. They're sending that data back to a database, and that database can be centrally located, as I mentioned. And then we have a web server front-ending that database, which will allow users to log in and mine the database and pull out the information they want. The capture probes, when I mention capture probes, I'm talking about GL's off-the-shelf hardware and software combinations. Some of you probably are very familiar with some of these things. We've been in this T1E1 world, TDM world with hardware and software products for a very long time. So we've got a lot of flexibility and quad cards, octal cards, dual cards, 16-port cards. So once depending on what network you have and how many interfaces you have, we'll size it appropriately, and we'll set up the capture probe. Now, one thing to note about the capture probe, and I mentioned that it's a fail-safe system. So if the probe, for instance, would go down, lose power or something, all of the T1 or E1 or T3 lines are preserved because we have a fail-safe system and things pass through there. We're non-intrusively tapped. Usually we're on like a DSX patch panel, but we can also go through our product, and we have fail-safe measures built into the product to allow the actual live line to flow through. And that's basically all I'm going to say about the capture probes from that interface. Now, some of the notes on them, and I mentioned we're monitoring the layer 1, layer 2, and layer 3 messages. So we have access to, frame errors, the frequency of the T1 or E1. We also have access at the protocol side, so we have all the ISDN messaging and so forth. They're non-intrusive, fail-safe. I think that's a key point to make here. When you have a piece of hardware attached to your network, you want to make sure that that's obviously the case. You don't want it introducing any problems, and we're fully compliant with that. Everything is sent back from these probes to a centralized database via TCP/IP. So you just have to provide a network, an IP network, to get this information back to our database. And we have a lot of filtering there. So the probe can be capturing, it has access to everything on the T1 or E1. I'm using T1 and E1 sort of loosely here, but it can be, T3, OC3, and so forth. It has access to everything, but maybe you only are interested in a certain, portion of that. Obviously, that's the part we will send back to the database and have for storage. So it's user selectable, and we'll help you configure that. I kind of jumped over here a little bit of that second layer, which is the storage layer, and I did that for a reason. I mean, the storage layer is not very glamorous. It stores everything in a database. Off the shelf, we use an Oracle database, and it's not a cumbersome database. We feel like we've got all the appropriate measures there to make that very easy to use for a customer. You just install it. It's got backup and archiving built into it. We can get very complex with it if need be. Generally, our customers don't need clustering or anything like that. So database is sitting there doing its job, storing all of the data. For the purpose of this webinar, I wanted to focus more on what the client or what the user will see. So I'm jumping to the third layer in our 3-tier architecture here, and that is the web server and that interface. So as it's shown here, that web server it will mine the database, pull information out of it, and display that for users. The front end of that, we have login privileges. So you as a user, maybe an admin, you may have technicians that you only want viewing data. You don't want them able to create filters or create graphs on the fly. So we have those different things that you can set up as an admin. This is the main screen when you log into the system, the NetSurveyorWeb. And basically, we call this the data tab, as you can see here. And it is showing all of the CDRs. So these are all of the ISDN. This is an example of ISDN from one probe in particular that we've named. So, our capture probes, there may be multiple in the network. All of that, if you had multiple, all of them would be shown here, and you would be able to see where they're coming from. And you can name those probes appropriately. I mean, you can name one, Washington, D.C., you can name one Atlanta, Georgia, and you will see where that particular call record was captured in your network. Those are all displayed here, and not filtered in their default state. So you see all of the call records. You can see that we're showing the calling number, the called number, basic CDR type information, how long the call happened, the start time, what was the completion, completion code, was it a normal call clearing, was it a busy call, was it a call rejected. These are there's some specific codes there. If you're an ISDN guy, you'll probably know there's some cause values there when the call gets released that we're able to look at, of course, in the protocol, and we're able to show you what happened there. So on this main screen, I spend a little bit of time just showing you and navigating it. Over to the left here, we have a date-time filter. So you can, and this has drop-down options that are predefined. You can show today, only today. You can show the last 7 days. You can show anything you want through this custom from a certain time. And once you set that up and you activate it, it will only show you those call records that are within that date. Pretty simple. The custom views are, as a user, you may not want to see certain columns. You can set those up. It's all user definable. Show all of them, show only a couple. Maybe you want one user not seeing certain things. You can set those things up. And the filter down below there, we have quick view filters. So I want to see all calls. I want to see just the busy calls in the display, and so forth. So we've got predefined ones that are, the 75% time. This is what you're looking for, maybe. But we also have a user definable one. So if you only wanted to see calls that, in this particular case, we're entering a call center. So if you only wanted to see only the calls, even though all of these calls are to 5,000, you could set up a filter to say, I only want to see calls going to, the 5,000 last 4 digits, or I only want to see calls that were busy calls, and it will only show you those in the screen. And then you can look at them and you can zero in on them, which I'll show you in a second, and so forth. So these are some of the just inherent features of the product and the CDR data tab. Under this actions drop-down, we'll show you later in our little video, we can save whatever's on the screen, all of the CDRs that you're showing after they've been filtered, to a CSV file. So you can export them, show them to your boss, show them in a report, and so forth. PDF files as well. So there's some features built into it that are easy for exporting the data. I think for right now, the next thing I want to talk to you about is you will notice on a CDR, you can click on this call flow. And when I click on that, basically what happens is you get the very specific information. Now we're looking at that one particular call. Okay, so we're looking at that one call. We've gone away from looking at all the calls that the probes have been capturing. We're zeroing in on one call. You'll see here it's sort of a 3-paned view. The top pane shows each of the messages there, and if I move my mouse over, you'll see the setup message. This is ISDN protocol, so you'll see the setup message, the call proceeding, blah, 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 all the way down to the disconnect. Okay. This gives you sort of, when those things happen, timestamp-wise, the frame numbers, all of the nitty-gritty about what we've captured, as well as a ladder diagram that corresponds to this. Okay. You'll see that. And as you click on a message in this ladder diagram, the plain English decode appears over here. So you'll be able to get right into the nitty-gritty of that particular message and look at it if need be. Okay, again, so these things can be exported and to a CSV and to a PDF and so forth. So you as a user, if you wanted to get maybe somebody else in your company is an expert on this and you say, I want to show them what's happening here, you can do that and then just email it to them. It's very easy to use in that sense. So back from that main screen there, when we were looking at the data tab and the CDRs, there was another tab, and it was called graphs. And graphs are, we call them key performance indicators, KPIs. They are a good way to show summary information about the captured traffic in the network. So we can produce those daily, weekly, monthly, and send reports to you. They're on the screen in real time, updating in real time, and we can be looking for an event of interest. It's all SQL based, and we have default graphs as well as you can create your own customized one. And they're linked to the other tabs in our system, in our NetSurveyorWeb, so it's easy to navigate back and forth by clicking on a graph and then going to the data tab and looking at just the call records that are associated with that graph. A couple examples, and I'll kind of scroll through these somewhat quickly, is we have inbound versus, here's an example entering a call center where we have inbound and outbound calls separated. So at a call center, obviously, you got agents sitting there. You're going to have a lot more inbound calls, and that's what this is showing, and it's showing the count. The time period here is for the last 1 week. So you get an idea, if you're the call center administrator, how many calls have I serviced within the last week, and how many calls did I service on March 17th. You can take a look at that quickly and see it. Okay. If you're interested in this type of information, again, this is a call center. There's another graph at a call center where it's showing the distribution of calls per the T1. So this is just another way to show you some of the flexibility that we have, and these KPIs have been designed for a particular customer who wanted to see this information. It may not be what you want to see, but it's just general information about their ISDN network, and you can see that we show it in graph view at the top as well as tabular view at the bottom. One other KPI of interest sometimes for customers is how, and I was mentioning it earlier, about the completion code or the release code in ISDN. So what types of release codes am I seeing throughout my network? We're going to show you that here. We show you it on, and the time scale on this one is for 1 day. So throughout the day, those are all my calls. You can see they start ramping up at around 6 a.m., 7 a.m., 8 a.m. And it shows you were they normal call clearings, okay, so normal calls. Were they user busy calls? These are all related to the call clearing codes within the ISDN protocol. So we're pulling that information out and categorizing each CDR based on that. Okay, within, again, I'm showing a couple graphs here that are representing a call center, but you can kind of figure out how we can use this even if you don't have a call center. Not everybody does, obviously. But this is a graph that shows a person at a call center may want to see how quickly are we servicing these calls? How quickly are my agents responding and talking and servicing callers? This will show you the call durations of each call that comes in, and it'll categorize them. So we've got bins of less than 30 seconds, 30 seconds to 3 minutes, and so on. So we're just showing that in graphical view, and we're counting them as well. Another key performance indicator, which just shows some flexibility in how we can do this, is we're showing simultaneous calls here on all the trunks. So maybe this is an 8-trunk T1 system, 8 PRI lines, and we're servicing, we're monitoring all the calls within those 8 lines, and it's just showing the active call count throughout the day. You can kind of see what your busy times of days are and so forth. So just showing you the call volume. When I mentioned earlier about the KPI configuration, this is a screenshot of how we actually set up the KPIs. We've provided you some standard ones, as well as we give you the ability to go in and edit and create a very specific one for your needs. So very user-friendly. We've got KPI groupings, which means that maybe you have a group that is related to call volume, and you want to show that at any given time. You want to show only those graphs. Maybe you have another group of some event of interest that you want to show. So we can group them separately and show them to you at different times. Moving on from the KPIs, I want to get moving here. I'm a little slow on my time. We have another key component of the entire NetSurveyorWeb system is alarms and scheduled reports. So I've categorized the alarms and scheduled reports into 2 sort of categories here. One of them is a real-time alarm notification. So an event of interest happens in your network, and I want to be alerted of it. So an example of that is maybe your ISDN PRI network is hit to 90% capacity. Okay, so you've got 2 T1s associated with your network, 23 time slots times 2, 46 time slots worth of calls. At 90% capacity, we'll alert you when that happens. So we can do that. We're looking for that, constantly looking for that. It could happen in the middle of the night, like I said, and then we'll alert you of it through an email or a log or whatever. If you're looking for a specific phone number, we can do those types of things. So the sky's the limit on what we can do there on an event of interest. We can be monitoring and looking for them. Scheduled reports, sort of in the same category here. We can send you like an inbound versus outbound calls. I showed you that graph earlier. We can send you that report every night at midnight or every Sunday night at midnight for the previous week. And those things can be scheduled to be done automatically. And you'll just get an email with it, with that report in there. Very quickly, report configuration. It's basically it boils down to what event do you want to look for. You can configure it based on a filter. How often do you want to look for that event, and what do you want to do when that event happens? And that's how you configure that. Here's a sample email. You'll notice here that we've got an email that came in. It was generated by our NetSurveyorWeb, and it had attached to it a PDF file which has a bunch of graphs in it for the day. This is a one-day graph of call volumes and so forth. So this is an example of what happens after the reports are generated and sent out to you. Now, along the same lines here, okay, we're monitoring ISDN, and if your interest is ISDN, at the same time, okay, we can be looking at the physical layer. That's obvious. That is all going on at the same time, of course, on your T1 or your E1, and we're monitoring that. And if we see problems with that, we're going to alert you of that. That can be happening along with your ISDN if ISDN is on your network. That can be a standalone NetSurveyorWeb, meaning that you've got T1s that you're not worried about the protocol. You're not doing voice or something, and you just want to see if they're taking sync loss or carrier loss. So you want to look at the line frequency, and you want to monitor those things. The NetSurveyorWeb can simply be a T1 E1 physical layer monitor as well. So you can have distributed cards throughout your network, and they can all be feeding back to, again, the central database, same concept. And you have all of these alerting features and so forth. Here's a very simple a screenshot of that. I've got PRIs sitting in Dallas, Texas, and circuit names we can identify, a carrier name you can identify. You will see the different alarms. This H means there was a history of an alarm there, but currently it's okay. This means the check mark means there was no history of an alarm after you've cleared it. You would see a red X if there was an alarm currently active. So we're looking at this is all physical layer statistics and so forth. When you click on one of those lines there, you actually get to see, for that particular T1, you'll get to see all of the alarms in the past that have happened. Okay, in a log file, and we've time-stamped it and so forth. I clicked ahead a little bit early before I wanted to show you, but you can see here we show the frequency and the line level as well on each of those. And the important thing to understand here is we can be monitoring this stuff. We can be monitoring the physical layer, and we can be alerting you when a problem happens. Okay. So now we've got a short video for you that shows a little bit of how the tool is being used and actively being used, and how you would navigate the tool a little bit, the NetSurveyorWeb. Give the presentation to Saketha, and she will play a video for you. And I will check back in after the video.
This is the GL's NetSurveyor web client application. Here we have two logins. Login as an administrator is having full privileges to access the system. In this option, user can able to create the filters, modify the filters, set alarms, and also able to generate reports. Whereas login as a guest option is able to view the records and reports. Now I will log in as an administrator account After successful login, depending on the type of monitoring performed, we can choose the protocols like T1E1 physical layer or ISDN or SS7 and so on. Now I am choosing the protocol type as ISDN. This is the data screen where we can see the CDR details of ISDN. This CDR details include probe name, link names, CRV and other protocol related stuff. Now let us explore some of the GUI features involved in this tab. The date range filter shown here is having the following options like today, yesterday, last 7 days, last 30 days, all and customized range. Whenever the user selects any particular option, CDR details pertaining to that option will be filtered out and shown in the data view. We have an ability to define the customized date and hour range, which is going to display the call detail records from the start and end time. Now we will see custom views or filters. The first drop down shown here is about custom views. The view actually provides a predefined profile where columns can be chosen based on the user selection. Here we have predefined profiles like all and GL default, and also we can able to create customized profiles. The second drop down shown here is about the filters. Here we have some predefined filters, and if you want to apply any one of the filter, select that option and observe that that particular filter is applied here. In this case, these records are trying to filter out based on the card number equals to 4. And if you want to apply other filter, select the filter respectively. This is going to filter out the calls based on the CRV 355. Now we'll see the quick view option here. In this quick view, we have different profiles like all calls, which is going to filter out all the calls, and busy calls, which will show you only the busy calls, and also no answer calls. Now we'll see the call flow option. Click on this call flow button will provide the visibility into each individual call. Here each call is depicted by message sequence, which gives the ladder diagram of the call flow between called and calling numbers. This call flow allows easy verification of the status and messages exchanged in a call. Here we can highlight the messages to see the decoded content in the right hand side. Let us click on the merge view here. This view is a combination of 3 views like details view, graphical view and decode view. Now we'll click on the go back button and see some of the other GUI options. Here we have many actions defined here like export as CSV, export as PDF, and also export all records into the CSV. We'll see how to export these calls. Select the calls whichever is required or select all, and select the option like export as CSV. Hit on the save button. This is going to export into the CSV file. And if user want to view this file, we can open it in the Excel format. Now let us switch to the other significant feature, that is reports. Here the reports provides an overall summary of the captured signaling or traffic over the entire network with the help of the useful graphs. Let us see some of the default configured graphs here. The first graph shown here is about call completion, which is showing the answered versus failed calls on the timely basis. Coming to the second graph, this is about the call duration, where we are segregating the duration into different categories like less than 30 seconds, between 30 to 3 minutes, and so on. We have the busy calls shown on the third graph. Fourth graph is about the call types, where we are segregating the calls into different categories like normal call clearing, user busy, calls rejected, no answer, and other categories. Also, we have inbound versus outbound calls showing on the timely basis. Next graph is about the inbound versus outbound calls on trunk basis. Here the reports can be generated for all the calls or filtered records also. We have an ability to export both graphical and tabular reports into PDF format. These are the default reports which is shown here, but we always work with the customer if they need any help in configuring the customized reports. Now let us see how to configure the reports. NetSurveyorWeb allows the users to add new KPIs or customize the reports based on the SQL queries using this configuration feature. Click on the existing profile to view the pre-configured KPIs. Here the user can choose the existing report or can edit the existing report. We also have view other profiles where the user can see the other pre-configured reports, and also we can import into the list. Let us switch to the other significant feature, that is alarms. We have an ability to trigger alarms and alerts whenever the calls of interest occur or when a network failure is detected. We can set the alarm criteria like filter condition or a KPI report. We can directly access the pre-configured filter profiles or KPI profiles to trigger the alarms and alerts whenever the filter conditions are passed. We can also send the predefined KPI report at scheduled intervals on hourly or daily or monthly or yearly basis. We can set the threshold on periodical or consolidated basis. In case of periodic, alarms can be triggered on minutely basis or hourly basis or daily basis depending on the configuration we have provided. Whereas in case of consolidated, alarms can be generated on daily basis or weekly basis or monthly basis. We can also set the alarm severity like minor, major or critical. Alarm alerts can be defined like email alert or visual alert or audible alert, or even log into the tables for future analysis. Flexible options are provided to save the alarm filters as profiles, and also we can add or edit the existing profiles which can be used to generate on scheduled basis. Now we'll go to the alarm log. In this alarm log, we are showing the history of the previously triggered alarms for offline analysis. We can also drill down to that particular alarm by clicking on the view KPI, which is used to analyze the problem. Let us switch to the T1E1 layer 1. NetSurveyor for T1E1 physical layer provides an instant overall graphical view of the health of the TDM network with drill down to the individual lines. This kind of remote monitoring and diagnostics helps us to troubleshoot any physical T1E1 line. The link status displays physical and data link status with sync loss, carrier loss for all the available probes across the network. We also have an user-defined columns where the user can configure their own names to identify the network. The historical icon indicates previous link errors of the probes which are rectified currently. Green check mark indicates that the link is up, whereas the cross mark indicates that the link is down. We also has an ability to view the alarm log by clicking on these icons, which provides the details about alarm type, condition, timestamp at which the alarm has occurred. For T1E1 layer 1, ISDN and SS7 protocol types, the probe name, link location, sync loss alarm, carrier loss alarm and MTP status are all automatically updated for all the available probes. Each link can be configured with a user-friendly name for easy identification of the signaling links. Now let us see how to configure link names for available probes. This is the configuration screen where we can provide user-defined column details and link name by add or edit option, which is used for the identification purpose. You can also click on the auto detect option to automatically have the NetSurveyorWeb detect the available signaling links. Now click on the data tab to see the configured link names that are appearing on the CDR details. All the significant features which we have explored for ISDN, like call detail records, customized reports, generating custom filters, alarm alerts, will be applicable for T1E1 physical layer also. This completes our live demonstration.
Okay, that completes our session here. We've given a PowerPoint presentation and this video. So as people are leaving, I want to thank everyone for joining us today. We will GL has been doing this series of webinars, and keep a look on our website here for the next available webinar. I think we'll be sending out emails, and we'll be posting those on our website for highlighting different products and different discussions about testing in general. I'm sure things will be coming up here in the near future. Okay, very good. Thanks a lot, everyone, for attending, and we will we'll have, again, like I said, we'll have this webinar on our website, and you can get it and look it over again. Thank you, and bye-bye.